Hi there. Now you would think that as I have so many roses that the sight of a brand new rose delivered in a box from David Austin wouldn't excite me, but you would be completely wrong. Over the coming weeks and months, many of you are going to be receiving stock that has been newly potted as we move out of bare root season and into potted stock. And I wanted to bring you this short video just to go through how you should handle your rose as soon as it arrives. Your potted rose is going to arrive in a package very similar to this. Hopefully the courier has handled it well and it's been kept upright as it says all over the box. At this particular point in time, if you can't unpackage your rose immediately, place it in a cool place out of direct sunlight, just somewhere where it can take a moment until you can get round to unpackaging it, or maybe it's a gift for someone who's going to come home and unwrap it when they get home from work. Stand it on a level and flat surface and you'll have a tear strip down the side of the box. Get hold of that strip and pull it away. The box will then completely open for you. Very simply now, all you need to do is roll the packaging away to reveal your brand new rose. Now this one is a replacement rose for myself and I'll talk to you that in about another video. You're then going to need a pair of scissors to release it from its housing. It's actually clamped into place in the bottom of the box. Simply snip those away and take out your rose. The packaging, let's go through a few of these bits and pieces. The pot of the rose will actually be in a potato starch bag. This particular item is completely recyclable and biodegradable. You can place this, if you wish to, into your home compost bin and it will completely disappear over a matter of time. The pot is now made up of recycled material and is recyclable at the curbside. The label, I keep these, but you don't have to. This is now completely recyclable at the curbside as well. The packaging itself contains two compartments, or two components I should say. The first of all is the brown packing strap which held the rose in place, which is fully recyclable, as is the cardboard as well. So you can either break this down and place this in your recyclable container for curbside recycling, or if you are doing no-dig gardening and you want to cover up an area to suppress weeds and lay mulch over the top of, absolutely perfect for that as well. Right, your newly delivered rose is going to look something along the lines of this. This is a brand new Desdemona. You can see covered in fresh growth and even one or two juvenile buds there, which is really lovely. Roses like this have gone through several processes before they get to you. You've all seen the videos from David Austin about them lifting roses from the field by tractor in October and November and then moving on into bare root season. This particular plant would have been field grown exactly the same as every other bare root rose supplied from, say, October through to the end of April. Stock at the point of lifting is sometimes potted and sometimes it's stored for supply during the winter months as bare root roses. Any stock left at the end of the year will of course then be potted up into the signature green pot with its beautiful gold emblem on the front of it. Plants delivered like this really need an awful lot of care. You want to handle this with the utmost care, and I know that you're going to get really excited. You're going to want to rush out and plant this into its location in the garden, whether it's in a pot or whether it's going directly in the ground. But I'm going to ask you just to slow the process down first of all and just take a breath. This particular plant has, as with all other bare root roses, has gone through a lot of stages of possible stress. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to put this particular plant into shock. So we need to handle it with an awful lot of care. The first thing I would suggest you do is actually to take your plant and actually pop it into a bucket of water. Up to about 5 or 6 inches deep, pop it into the water and give it a really good drink to make sure it has absolutely everything that it needs. After that, you really need to approach it with caution, and I think that the best thing to do to suggest, certainly if you're receiving roses over the coming weeks, maybe the next 4, 5, 6 weeks into the very end of May or beginning of June, is to actually just take these and pop these to one side. Allow it to settle in its pot and just acclimatise to where it is. If you are in any doubt, lift the bottom of the pot and turn it up. You don't want to be knocking the plant out of its pot until you see fresh growth coming out of the actual drainage holes in the bottom of the pot. Now, I haven't had a chance to look at this one myself. I would almost guarantee that this doesn't have any roots coming out the bottom of it. I'm going to be in no rush to plant this particular rose. I'm going to pop this to one side and just let itself settle and root into this pot fully. What we don't want to be doing is turning this rose out of its pot, knocking its pot out, And if it hasn't formed a really strong, nice, compact root ball, we don't want that root ball system falling apart and actually detaching from the main roots, taking all of the thousands of tiny hair-like roots with it. Those are the ones that actually take up water, and those are the ones that, if they are lost, will put the plant into complete shock. If you can't wait and you are far too excited, once you've given your plant a thoroughly good water, now this is a plant I've paid for myself, so I'm going to be handling this one very gently, and I'm going to show you how to handle it now. I'm going to take the label off so it's out of the way. All I'm going to do is simply take the plant, I'm going to place my hand across the top of the pot, and I'm going to turn the whole thing upside down. The bark will fall off, and all you need to do is take your fist and give it a really good knock. The pot will start to come away, and you can give it a little shake. What you want to make sure is this root ball stays completely intact and doesn't fall apart at this particular point at all. I'm not going to plant this one now. You can see that had a lovely root system, so I'm going to turn that back up out of the way, and I'm going to put that to one side. If you do get too excited and you want to plant your rose like this very, very quickly, I would suggest you do it at the latter part of the day. I know you're going to want to rush out and do it when it's nice and sunny. You're going to want to feel the strength of the spring sunshine on the back of your head and warming your bones, but I would really suggest you do this at the latter part of the day, something around 4, maybe 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. Prepare your hole or your pots, get everything together, get a watering can of water together. If you end up in a situation when you turn that pot upside down and knock the pot off and that compost collapses and it comes away, your plant is going to go into shock, and the weather conditions you're planting it up in will really decide on what happens to it next. If it's nice and cool and we're going into the back end of the day and the temperature's starting to drop off, that plant is going to have at least 12 to 14 hours just to take a breath, get some water into it before the heat of the midday sun comes onto it. So if you do get too excited and you do want to plant your new rose really quickly, I would suggest you do that in the back part of the day where the temperatures are starting to drop and you have the ability to get some water into it. If your root system does collapse and you handle the rose a little bit too heavily and you do some damage to it, if you're planting in a pot, make sure you pop that plot into a shaded location in the garden. If you've planted it in the ground, I would strongly suggest covering it up with a little bit of with a little bit of windbreak fabric or an old net curtain, something like that. Put a few bamboo canes around it and just drape it over, just to keep the direct sunlight off of it. I've seen many people wheeling their parasols over to a rose. Again, that will work quite nicely, just to keep the direct sunlight off of it. Of course, once it's in the ground, you need to give it a really good water. Refer back to my watering guide, which was created just a few days ago. Each rose newly planted is going to need at least 10 to 14 litres of water applied directly around the soil, never onto the foliage or the flowers themselves, directly onto the soil around the rose, around once or twice a week for its first 1, 2, 3, 4 and sometimes 5 growing seasons, depending on what the weather is like. I hope you found this guide to handling newly delivered potted roses useful, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm really glad to have Desdemona back in the collection, and I will be sharing my thoughts and comments on this one and getting some more media together with this one over the coming weeks. Anyway, I'll see you all again soon. Take care now. Bye bye.